Welcome to 28 Days of Rehab today. Today we're diving into a life-changing concept, surrender. While it may feel counterintuitive, surrender is the key to breaking free from addiction and stepping into the life God has designed for you. It's not about giving up, it's about transferring ownership of your life and decisions to the one who knows you best. Let's unpack what surrender means, why it's vital for recovery, and how you can actively practice it in your daily life. Understanding surrender means releasing control and allowing God to lead. Think of it as transferring ownership. If someone commits a felony, they must surrender their weapon. It's not just giving something up, it's transferring ownership to the rightful authority. In the same way, when we surrender to God, we're saying, my will, my thoughts, and my actions are no longer mine to control. I trust you to guide me. This transfer is crucial because our best thinking has often led us into addiction, broken relationships, and despair. Matthew 6:33 gives us clear instructions. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. By surrendering to God's authority, we align with his purpose and invite his blessings into our lives. Ask yourself, what areas of your life are you still trying to control, and how is that working for you? Refusing to surrender often leads to burnout, worsened addiction, and spiritual separation. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous highlights this in its discussion of self-centeredness. It states that selfishness and reliance on our own power keep us trapped in a cycle of failure and frustration. When you refuse to surrender, you may notice these patterns: increased anxiety as you struggle to manage what's beyond your control, a deeper reliance on substances to numb the pain of failure, and strained relationships as loved ones feel pushed away by your resistance to change. Now consider Jonah in the Bible. God called him to preach to Nineveh, but Jonah resisted and ran in the opposite direction. His refusal to surrender led to a storm and 3 days in the belly of a great fish. Only when Jonah prayed and surrendered to God did he find peace and purpose. How often do we, like Jonah, create storms in our lives by resisting God's call? Steps to surrender: applying faith daily. Admit powerlessness. The first step to surrender is recognizing that you can't do it alone. Jesus invites us in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." When you feel overwhelmed, recite this verse as a reminder to let God carry your burdens. Use it as a prayer in moments of doubt or exhaustion, saying, "Lord, I can't do this alone. I give this burden to you." Transfer ownership to God. Trust that God's plan is better than anything you could imagine. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." If you're facing a difficult decision, pause and pray. God, I give this to you. Guide me to make the right choice in your will. Take action in faith. Surrender isn't passive, it's an active choice to follow God's guidance every day. Join a Bible study, seek accountability from a mentor or sponsor, and spend time in prayer and reflection. In James 5:16 we're told, "Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed." Confession is a practical step that reinforces surrender by inviting accountability and healing into your life. Biblical examples of surrender: Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Before his crucifixion, Jesus prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. His surrender led to the ultimate victory, salvation for all humanity. When you face fear or uncertainty, reflect on Jesus' surrender and pray, "God, not my will, but yours be done." The Prodigal Son. In Luke 15, the prodigal son's surrender brought him back to his father. He said, "I am no longer worthy to be called your son." His humility and surrender were met with grace and restoration. When you feel unworthy or ashamed, remember this story. Surrender opens the door to God's mercy and forgiveness. Living the transformation, surrendering to God brings tangible changes. Peace, anxiety fades as you trust God's plan. Freedom, addiction loses its grip when you stop trying to control it yourself. Healing. Relationships begin to mend as you surrender pride and embrace humility. Romans 8:28 reminds us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him." Even your failures and mistakes can become part of a greater purpose when you surrender them to God. Reflection questions. What burdens are you carrying that you need to surrender to God? How can you transfer ownership of your decisions and actions to Him today? Which of these steps to surrender will you take this week? Call to action. Surrender isn't giving up. It's stepping into God's plan for your life. Transfer ownership of your struggles to Him and watch how He transforms them into something beautiful. To go deeper, explore my book, There's Power in Pain and Poetry. Some of you at www.hustleheavenlyinc.com. Learn how surrender led to my transformation and how it can lead to yours too. Join us for Day 4, Building a Foundation of Faith, where we'll discuss how faith anchors recovery and life. Keep God first and take this journey one day at a time.